All right, chat. We got episode 3 of this fairy tale series analysis, Phantom Lord arc. Last episode. Just go watch last episode. Why skip to part 3 when you got 1 and 2 to go watch? Like who? That's why, like, when I watch anime and they give you recaps, I'm like, why give me a recap when I could have just went back and watched the last episode? That gives you guys more watch time and helps me understand what I'm looking at. You know? Oh no. Um, Phantom Lord. I feel like he's going to say this is a hot mess. Um, and like the power scaling of things go out the water here, kind of, or I don't know. I feel like he's gonna say this arc isn't that great. That's how I'm feeling. But anyway, let's get into it.
Fun time. It has good characterization for Gray. It provides more world building with the introduction of another
Oh.
demon created by Zeref in the form of Deliora, and for all of its faults, was a consistently
Yeah, that's him in the video. He puts it so where like it fades in, so his voice doesn't start off loud. It starts off low as hell.
enjoyable watch throughout. So I really can't complain too much here. So let's move on to the. So we get a Lucy arc.
Yes, sir.
Sorta, kinda, not really.
Most
This is
definitely.
one of those stretches that has a lot of standout moments, but the elements that make up the whole just don't mesh well at all. And it's
See?
all wrapped up
All right,
in
know it.
conflict I could give less than a shit about. Levy McGarden and her team, who were introduced a few episodes earlier, are suddenly attacked after the Fairy Tale Guild Hall is destroyed, both by Blacksteel Gajiel of the Phantom Lord Guild. In response, Fairy Tale accepts the obvious challenge and a guild war ensues. That's literally it. There's no real mystery, none of the villains have any kind of development, the heroes definitely don't have any development, and the Phantom Lord Guild is motivated exclusively by money, as Lucy's rich father paid to have her returned home because she ran away. If I'm being honest, I feel like this arc would have worked better later on in the series, say after the Edelus or Urashian Sace arcs, where we're much more privy to how the various members feel about their guild pride and defending their comrades.
I mean, I wouldn't say this arc was useless because I feel like it's the conclusion he instantly went to. Like this arc really doesn't mean a thing. Like and us seeing it now, how much they feel about their guild, you know, and how much they feel about their guild members, even though they barely even know the girl, was powerful. You know what I'm saying? They don't care who you are, where you came from, how much money you had, all that. They don't care about none of that shit, bro. You're one of us. Like this is our family type shit. You know what I'm saying? We're not just gonna let niggas walk into our house and just destroy the whole shit. You know what I'm saying? And I like that. And I like how it completely excludes the whole reasoning behind it. Or I guess it was for money, but I like Lucy wasn't part of this shit at all. I mean, come on, bruh. Uh, let's keep going.
As is, this is the first major conflict most of these characters have been a part of, and though everyone except for Natsu ultimately plays only a small part, the only thing we have to go off of is that they want to defend their guild. This is a conflict born out of desperation, and while that can certainly be made interesting, the show does little to endear me to anyone in particular by using this trope. I guess you get some stuff of Kana leading the C-list members against the Shades, you get some setup for Loki's mini arc that comes next, you know, you have some stuff, but here's the problem with all that. The motivation for this arc is Lucy, and Lucy doesn't fucking do anything. In her own
What is Lucy supposed to do? At this point in the series, Lucy is the weakest on the team. What is she supposed to do? Because, like we said, like, is she supposed to fight one of the Element Four? Is she supposed to fight Josei? No, she's not gonna do that. She's gonna get cooked.
arc, the only one she gets, focusing on her and her past in the manga at least, Lucy Heartphilia is reduced to a damsel in distress plot device. We'll be
I really hate that term. Um, okay, I don't hate it in the sense of like, oh, bruh. Like that's what it is. But at the same time, it's like there are so many characters who have this same thing and people love it. You know, look at Nami, look at Rukia, look at Orihime. These characters are literally almost put in the same exact situation where they're captured by an enemy and don't do anything for the rest of the arc. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy how people will love those arcs and love those characters, but it happens in Fairy Tale, and oh my god, this thing's trash. Let's go.
Going into Lucy herself momentarily.
I'm trying not to
but
talk
for
too loud
now,
because people are
that's
still
just
sleeping.
an awful decision from a narrative standpoint.
Okay, so I guess the Soul Society arc was just a terrible from that perspective. The Waco Mundo Around Car arc was terrible just from that perspective. Like I say, like come on, you gotta keep it fair ground here. You know what I'm saying?
Why doesn't Lucy get to defend her own honor, fight for her own destiny?
Why doesn't Rukia fight for her own honor, her own destiny? Why didn't she try to fight? You know what I'm saying? Why Orihime try to do nothing? She said she wanted to fight, right? She didn't even fight nobody, bro. Hey, what's happening, bro?
Even if she ends up losing, why doesn't she get to fight Gajiel or any of the Element 4 that make up the big bads of the arc?
Why didn't Rukia try to fight any of the captains? Why didn't Orihime try to fight one of their wrong cars? I mean, like, hey, and don't give me that bullshit. Talk about, oh, they were gonna lose anyway. He just said it didn't matter if they lost. Hey, come on.
Hell, wouldn't it have been the most badass thing to have Lucy take Urza's place in holding off Jose? There's an
See, listen. I know I'm talking shit this whole time already, but that would have been fine with me if Lucy did come in and fight Urza, because this is better for Lucy and a little better for Urza, because Urza that us took a whole ass Jupiter Cannon attack and was up to fight Jose in like what, an hour, 30 minutes, bro. Not realistic, bro.
extended fight scene in the last part of the arc that gets cut
And it's
to
not like
every
this
now
is
and
even a
then,
fight.
and nothing happens here until Makarov shows up. And Lucy could have filled the role that Urza plays after everyone else in the guild had been downed. How badass would that have been?
It wouldn't have been, because Lucy can't do anything yet. Bro.
Yeah, she would have gotten absolutely stomped, but imagine
It would have been
willpower
less
that it would
time.
display to stand up and keep fighting for the right to exist as her own person. Instead, you just get Urza in a nothing battle that goes nowhere except to stall for Makarov to come in and auto win the war with his big fuck off magic spell. And hey, that's not to say that this arc is all bad. I like the setup that Loki has, and it leads nicely into his story, and I like the Elfman episode where we get to learn of the most interesting backstory in the series from a character perspective. See, Elfman and Mira Jane, two of Fairy Tail's mainstays that have been around since episode 2, used to have a third sibling, Lizana, whom Natsu was especially close to. In the past, Mira Jane took her siblings on an S-class quest that went out of control. Elfman, using his takeover magic, tried to stop the beast that they were hunting only to lose control himself, savagely beating Mira Jane and ultimately killing Lizana in cold blood. This is a huge, heavy bit of storytelling and is paid off brilliantly by Elfman overcoming his weakness to save Mira Jane after she's taken prisoner by Phantom Lord. Unfortunately, this is the start and end of Elfman's character arc in the entire show. He doesn't have to wrestle with the knowledge that he killed his little sister, and no ill will is ever born over that fact, even from Natsu. Now, I have a huge soft spot for the Strauss siblings, as I think the differing ways that they coped with Lizana's death, where Elfman resolved to man up and not make that mistake again, while Mira Jane essentially pulled a Mitra Surik and cut off her connection to magic to save herself from the expectations she failed to meet in losing her, were well done and extremely engaging. But again, nothing else is done with it. It's one of the series' biggest missed opportunities, and all because they're both side characters. What a shame.
I mean, what else are they supposed to do? Their arcs are finished. You know? If their arcs are finished and nothing else can come from their characters, what else is they supposed to do? You know? I don't know. Maybe you guys can answer that in the comments. I don't know.
As well,
what else
in
they're supposed to
another
do.
positive moment, and though I think it's a moment that would have benefited the most from this arc taking place later in the show's run, when Natsu recalls memories he's had in the old Fairy Tail Guild Hall as it's completely destroyed during his battle against Gajiel was excellent, providing the first of few instances where the power of friendship isn't overplayed, and instead is a small yet potent push towards continuing to stand and fight despite all hope being lost.
It's crazy how like you can say that for this scene, but like I said, there's only been one time they used power of friendship for real. No, two times, and it was both against Adnogia. Everything else I wouldn't consider power or friendship. I'm just saying.
Particularly good is the brand new flashback where Natsu childishly displays his grief and pain when he isn't able to read his first job request. So the guild comes to his defense, and Urza in particular offers to teach Natsu whatever Igneo was unable to teach him before he disappeared. Finally, Fairy Law is just badass. I think it's the single most creative and excellently used spell in the entire series, despite basically just being a big fuck off light blast attack. Its mechanics are where it differentiates itself, only affecting those which the caster perceives as their enemies within their own hearts. In this case, Makarov perceives Jose and his shades as enemies, and it completely annihilates them. And then he just says to behave and walks off. What an absolute unit. Overall, however, the biggest problem with this arc is that Phantom Lord are terrible villains. Remember, this is just a guild war for money. There is no deep character.
I mean, they're not okay. They act like villains, but they're not villains. You know, they're a normal guild. They just act shady as fuck.
Driven motivation, there is no grand plan, nothing. I'm not saying we've had a good villain yet. The first, in my opinion, comes in the arc just after this, but at least Leon had a bit of depth to his character, even if that depth is as shallow as a rain puddle. Jose is in it for the money and because he's jealous of Fairy Tail, and his lackeys don't have any identifiable motivation other than being part of this antagonistic group that the heroes have to fight. I sure hope this problem doesn't continue with future groups of enemies. I think
Oh no, I can already tell we're gonna have some problems, bro. I can already tell.
Gajeel, as the second Dragon Slayer wizard introduced, was an interesting character, at least in concept, but he only becomes so after Natsu defeats him. They have a conversation where they discover that Natsu's adoptive father, the dragon Igneel, and Gajeel's adoptive father, the dragon Metallicana, both disappeared on the exact same day, providing a small bit of mystery as to why there are no more dragons in the world. However, better for Gajeel was the seemingly antagonistic view he has of Metallicana, not only providing a counterpoint to Natsu's worship of Igneel, but hinting at how poorly Gajeel took his foster father's disappearance. That could lead really well into what happens.
This scene is from the Tenro Island episode 61 after Gajeel was introduced as a fairy tale wizard, and why they didn't show it back then is beyond me.
Later, when Makarov makes the controversial decision to invite Gajeel into Fairy Tail since he has nowhere else to go. I could see Gajeel becoming fiercely loyal to Makarov for being the father figure he still obviously needed, but again, nothing is ever really done with this, and in fact, I have many problems with where Gajeel eventually goes as a character.
Bro, he's literally Vegeta, bro. There's no way you're gonna sit here and say you're upset with Gajeel as a character, bro. He's literally Vegeta. Are we serious?
He's routinely shafted and made into the worst ship in the entire
war. Yo, this nigga has me making this for clips. There's no shot. What's going on? Oh yeah, it's been a year, bro. Yeah. What, bro? There's no shot you're gonna sit here and tell me that Gajeel and Levi are the worst ship. Now, I personally don't care for them, but I know lots of people love them. There's no shot. I only watched a video, like a 50-minute video, talking about how good this relationship is. Bro, that is crazy to talk about. That's crazy that he just said that. Bro,
series.
I have no words.
But we'll get into that briefly during the Tenro.
Worst
anyway, back to this arc holistically.
Relationship
Let's look at
ever.
the order of events. So Gajeel messes up the guild hall, attacks a, frankly, C-list team in Levi, Jet, and Droy, and then Fairy Tail retaliates. According to everything that's shown, the only reason Fairy Tail didn't win the war right then and there is because Makarov got cheap-shotted and Jose was too strong for the other members. Everyone else in the Phantom Lord Guild was either shown to be a chump or was Gajeel, who at that point was faced with his allies getting pummeled, and then he'd have to deal with Natsu, Gray, Elfman, and Erza, along with many C-listers at once. Hell, after that, Natsu, Elfman, and Gray each defeat one of the Element Four without much.
He technically doesn't beat this guy, he outsmarts him. The goal wasn't to beat him, the goal was to destroy the Lacrima. And he did beat him, because that's how they had to stop the whole magic circle being casted. You could say he outsmarted him. It's the same thing. Look, I'm not gonna go too heavy on that, but like, bro, come on.
Trouble, while
And what about Elfman? Then Elfman and Gray one-shotted him immediately after.
That Natsu, Elfman,
I
and
guess they
Gray
did.
each defeat one of the Element 4 without much trouble, while Erza defeats hers in a single attack after she was completely drained of magic power by blocking a big.
Later arcs like the Grand Magic Games give us a timescale of roughly 3 days to recover magic energy to full. By the way, this took place about an hour after, if
Big
that.
laser beam earlier. These are supposed to be the strongest wizards Phantom Lord has other than Gajiel, who Natsu summarily defeats shortly after that, albeit with a little bit of help from Lucy. And that's not even mentioning Loxus, Mystigan, or Gildarts, 3 wizards who are by all accounts far stronger than even Erza, not to mention future villains who have a vested interest in members of Fairy Tail like Jalal and Mardgeir, let alone Zareth. It's a case where once you learn
I like how we comparing endgame villains to a third arc. Oh, relax.
important Fairy
It was
Tail members
fine,
are to
bro.
these people, it becomes absolutely.
It's fine. We're not at the final stages of the story or like the adventure or later on in the adventure where like everyone has leveled up and gotten stronger, bro. We're still at the start. Lucy can only summon one spirit at a time still. She can't even summon two. And even when she summoned two, she wasn't that strong. When she summoned two, I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, she's on the level of Ursa now. Like when she summoned three, that's when I'm like, okay, maybe she can actually have like a chance against like a strong opponent. You know what I'm saying? But then when she got the star dress, then I'm like, okay, yeah, she could probably compete with somebody on the team. But you know what I'm saying, bro? Like, relax. And now she got the cross dress, bro. Come on, stop playing.
Absolutely laughable
Like,
to assume that they
it's
would allow
crazy.
any battle to take place where there was a serious chance of their prizes being killed. And, you know, of course,
Okay, with Phantom Lord, they didn't like Fairy Tail, and let's be honest, the S class wizards were a bit of a outstretched, you know, but I bet Jose did his research. You know, Guild Arts is never, you know, at the guild. You know, Loxus don't really care, and Michigan's never there either. So the S class wizards kind of just cooked themselves, you know, and then all he had to do was sneak attack Makarov, and the rest of the team was done. You know what I'm saying? Because like, okay, I guess they got Gray, Natsu, Elfman, Urza. Okay, those are their strongest wizards. Like, and like after that, then who's next? Who's next? Kana. Kana's gonna get cooked. All that gonna get cooked. Jet's gonna get cooked. Whoever's after Elfman on the power scale system here, at this current point in the story, they're gonna get cooked. And he believed in his people. Honestly, they were going to win. He put up the right matchups against the right people. I think, you know, Juvia was probably a mistake, but at the end of the day, Juvia could have won that shit if she wasn't thinking about falling in love with Gray. So I think Jose at least had a fighting chance to actually win this battle. He actually did. He got hoed. Simple as that.
at the time,
And then you could say the whole Michigan thing was oversight because he did end up helping. He did. So it's great.
Shima didn't know half of this stuff, but even disregarding that, there's still the evidence I laid out above with the other S-class Fairy Tail wizards. Aside from Jose, who Makarov beats in one attack, by the way, no wizard in Phantom Lord is shown to even hold a candle to the Fairy Tail crew, so it's just as laughable to think that they ever.
Like I said, I think the only person who was a joke was the Stone guy. That was it. Everyone else was dead ass like a matchup for the person they fought. Like Juvia, like I said, if Juvia wasn't thinking about feelings for Gray and didn't have feelings for Gray, she probably could have won that shit. Cause her water was melting his ice. You know, he had to sneak attack her plenty of times or catch her off guard plenty of times during the fight. And like, yeah, she could have won that shit. The fire guy, 100% Natsu was gonna lose to that shit if he didn't have a win condition. If he didn't have to push, if he didn't have to punch to Lacrima, Natsu was gonna lose that shit. Uh, I guess Natsu ran to Arya before Urza jumped in. He was getting cooked. You know. So like, let's not even say they didn't have a chance. I believe they had a whole they actually had a chance.
Look, the fight against Godjiel is cool and all, and I like how it was resolved with teamwork rather than brute willpower, but the fact of the matter is that there are simply no stakes in this arc. In the Galuna Island and Lullaby arc,
Pride, my nigga? Why, bro? Why do people push that agenda so hard? What stakes do you need to have for a gang war?
there was the looming threat of the
In a gang war, okay, and stuff like this, pride is on the line, gang. You can't just let someone come up to your house and destroy the shit and just let them get away. Like, you're gonna let them get away with that? What the fuck? Come on, man.
demons that were to be unleashed by the villains.
And again, he's going to end of series villains and motivations to compare to the third arc of Fairy Tail, where we're still learning about the world and other wizards and literally other guilds and how they act. We're not here for demons yet, bruh.
Didn't matter. That alone was enough to drive the drama and push the heroes into a sense of desperation, but nothing is really here for that. When the heroes don't have such desperation, at least not anything that's justified, you need some secondary element, a character arc, drama between characters, or an interesting mystery. And we'll see that many of the best arcs have all three, like the next one. But that just leaves Phantom Lord all the more barren of substance. But then we come to the Lucy problem. This is an issue that's not unique to this arc, by the way, but permeates throughout the entire show. Lucy is a terrible character and
What? Are we serious?
doesn't deserve to be in Fairy Tail.
What?
I wouldn't call her a Mary Sue so much as an author's pet, with the difference being that Mary Sues are great at everything, while authors' pets tend to have everything given to them regardless of how worthy they are to receive it. And the author tries their damnedest to make the audience feel like this.
Okay, I think the only thing she didn't deserve was that magic spell that Hibiki gave her, Ronomentria. But even then, after learning it, she learned how to actually use it properly. And we see her progression where she had to use Gemini to gain extra magic power to do it, and now she can just do it herself, I believe. Bro, it's crazy.
Character is worthy, and then they usually fail. Lucy is a rich kid who ran away from home because her mom died and her dad didn't love her because evil businessman. I would give it more nuance than that, as I did.
Again, like you put it in such a abridged version that of course it's gonna sound stupid. You know? Of course it's gonna sound stupid.
And will do Urza, but that's literally the start and
I want him to do an abridged version of Urza's whole shit.
Of what we learned about her past. Her father, who is ostensibly the antagonist of this arc, as he's the one who hired Phantom Lord to capture Lucy, gets a single scene to his name, and that's after everything is said and done, and it's just Lucy telling him off. What a complete joke. This backstory is in contrast to Gray, whose home was rent to ash by a hell demon and whose only remaining maternal figure sacrificed her life to save him, where then he's forced to live with the guilt of being the cause of the conflict that ultimately killed her. Elfman, who only gets a single episode, also has an infinitely more engaging backstory than spoiled rich girl over here. Now, I'm not trying to downplay how damaging...
You are. You literally are. You're downplaying the shit out of this. Look, I personally... I know there's a lot of people out there who can fucking relate to Lucy's story here, and that's what makes it good. That's what makes it okay. Lucy is supposed to be the main character of this whole series. I know Natsu gets all the thumbnails and all the action and shit, but Lucy gets to tell us the story. It's her story. She's the one who wanted to join Fairy Tail. She wasn't there when everyone else was there. She's learned the lore just like us. And this is a very relatable situation that I feel like a lot of people go through, where one of their parents is not there with them and the other one's just an asshole. You know what I'm saying? I hear it all the time. I know y'all hear it too, the drunk stepdad type shit. You know what I'm saying, bro? It happens all the time. I know it may seem simplistic compared to Elfman Lee offing his sister and feeling ashamed, or Gray having his whole family, his whole city cooked, and then the only person that took him in got cooked because of his actions. I know it doesn't compare to that level of craziness when it comes to a backstory, but at the same time, for a normal person who has a normal life, this is very, very relatable. And I feel like that's fine.
The emotional neglect of a parent can be, but
He's like I said, backstories don't need to be this grandiose thing where like, because then like you don't relate. I feel like people like characters the most when they're either cool as shit or relatable as fuck. You know, there's no in between.
Urza was a literal slave. The things
Yeah, like who in real life is a slave nowadays? Okay, nowadays, nowadays, who in real life? Like, come on, bro. Who's related to Urza's backstory? Who is? No one, because no one was a slave. No one was in that situation. You know what I'm saying?
don't equate. This leads into my larger issue with her, however, in that Mashima has to constantly invent C-list, no, not even that, Z-list villains for her to even have a chance at overcoming because she has no real ability on her own. Her entire gimmick, her magic, is to summon various celestial spirits that are based off of the constellations. Okay, so she summons them, and then all she can really do is react to the ensuing fight. This isn't a Pokemon battle. Lucy isn't really giving direct orders to the spirits, but rather vague suggestions, while the spirits themselves are wholly autonomous fighters that make their own decisions.
Okay. Like I said, this is still the start of the series where she has to level up, and like, you literally hear her during the whole arcs that she doesn't want to just let her spirits fight for her. She wants to fight alongside them. She says it all the time. And eventually she learned how to do it with the star dress. What's the problem here? Yeah, like she just summons them only and just stands there in the back. She fights. You know, for the most part, for most of her fights, she literally handles them herself with things she can do. You know, against Melody. Melody? I think it's Melody. No, Sherry. Against Sherry. Uh she beat her herself physically. She, Aquarius didn't knock her out. Lucy did. Next fight. They did a unison raid against the guy in Tower of Heaven, but like, there's lots of fights where she was going to win off her own power, like against Flare. Yes, she summoned Gemini, but they were going to use a spell that only Lucy could do. Gemini can't do that spell. Lucy can only do that spell. You know, and then after that, she's literally the only person who could fight the. Like, I'm jumping all over the place. Lucy is a great character.
Style of magic leaves very
Very
little
character.
room for Lucy to be at all useful or even really comparable to
Bring up all the shit you like. I think he's only seen the first part,
literally
first like part of Fairy Tail. But even then, she was literally saying how she wants to fight alongside her spirits.
any other wizard in the guild. So what ends up happening? Like I said, Mashima invents Z-list villains. This happens in the Arashio Seis arc.
Angel's literally a like crazy ass fighter, bro. She's literally what? I feel like anyone in the restaurant says yes, they get a little shafted, but they're still good characters, bro. I'm not saying like top tier characters, but like they're not no Z list character, gang. This nigga, yes, a Z list character because he never comes up. We get no really backstory on him, but like, who the fuck's gonna sit there and watch a backstory on this nigga, bro?
Island arc. She is severely violated in
She literally, you can't even say anything about this fight. She literally got hoed. She can't do anything. Not only were they cheating and blackmailing her, they literally countered her fucking spell, bro. So this is literally a win. If that shit didn't happen, if Raventail didn't do that, Lucy wins this fight 100%.
the Grand Magic Games by being a Videl-like punching bag to show how evil Raven.
And she was not gonna be Sabretooth.
Tail is. This happens in the Key of the Starry Sky arc.
Filler arc.
Her main fight in the Eclipse Celestial Spirit
Filler arc.
Its arc is mainly used for fetish bait, and I can go on and on and on. Lucy is just
Like, you see how he listed 2 filler arcs as reason.
not respected as a wizard, and her fights are either just her reacting to other people doing the work, having to be aided by a cooler character like in the Tower of Heaven arc, or used as comedic relief like in the Tenro Island arc. I have yet to see a Lucy fight where she is a badass. Now,
is it Lucy versus Jackal? Or Lucy versus Brandish? Lucy in almost any fight in 100 Year Quest. I mean, what are we talking
Now,
about?
that's not to say that she doesn't have her moments, which we'll be getting to later, namely in the Loki mini arc and the Key of the Starry Sky arc. Putting that aside, though, now that we've determined that she's completely useless in universe, let's zoom out to see if she makes sense in the narrative. What role does she serve as part of Team Natsu, if not in a combat oriented role? In a team setting, you usually have one character who isn't as focused on combat, but brings another equally useful skill to the table. In Hunter x Hunter, for example, you have Leorio, who offers a more well-adjusted human perspective, which contrasts with the other three's strange and sometimes disturbing values. In Dragon Ball, Bulma was the tech girl and driver, who often aided the heroes with her various gadgets, or, was the eye candy for the pervert characters that they kept running into. In Naruto, Sakura was the useless one that made Naruto and Sasuke look cool by comparison, even though they were also sniffling brats, at least in part 1.
So you give Sakura, a W for being useless, but Lucy gets the shot. What? Bro, what? You heard that bullshit that came out the stick of mouth? What the hell?
In my head, if I were
What
designing
the
Lucy from the
fuck?
ground up as part of this group, I would make her the magic knowledge expert. Say she
Holy
spent her childhood
shit.
reading everything she could about random magical whatsits in lieu of her
What
father's
the
neglect,
fuck?
which could help with exposition
And she does do that sometimes.
and figuring out magic-related mysteries, such as the one on Galuna Island, or Tower of Heaven, or even Daedalus. Well, Lucy doesn't have a role outside of combat. I mean, if you need help specifically with things regarding celestial spirits that she has access to, yeah, she can be pretty knowledgeable. But other than that, she's as clueless as Natsu is about most things that happen to them throughout the series. I truly don't understand why she was included other than to copy from other more successful shonens. Nami from One Piece comes to mind with her over-the-top reactions to the shenanigans that occur throughout the show's run, but I think it's more
Okay, Nami is just as useless, gang. I know she's a navigator, She's just as useless, gang. She's just as useless. I hate when niggas try to tell me that she's the most important person on the team when all she does is just navigate them when there's literally, what are they called? Log posts that really tell you where to go.
likely that she was just a carryover from Rave Master, who had a similar main duo to Natsu and Lucy in Fairy Tail. It's a pair that Mashima likes to use a lot, and I can't say I'm a fan. Finally, let's zoom out even further. If she doesn't make sense as a member of Team Natsu, and doesn't make sense from a narrative party comp perspective, maybe she serves a thematic purpose, because Fairy Tail does indeed have themes, however shallow they may be at times. In general, the values of the members of Fairy Tail run the same. Take pride in your guild, don't hurt people for your own gain, magic is alive and should be used to express yourself. That's kind of the basic gist of every major character and their ideals. Does this make every character boring and samey? Yes. However, what separates them is the different things that Fairy Tail itself means to them. For our main group, it's a place to belong. Each member of Natsu, Lucy, Gray, and Urza lost their place in the world and found it again by becoming a part of Fairy Tail. Their very identities ride on them being a part of this found family, and their loyalty stems from the part that Fairy Tail played in them overcoming their respective traumas. I very much like this setup for a main group. It offers them a cohesion that's lacking when characters like Elfman, Loki, or Kana butt in during some arcs, and gives us a very good reason to want to see them stay together, because we've seen where they came from and the hardship that they shouldn't have to endure alone. The issue with this is one that I brought up earlier. Lucy's hardships simply don't equate to the other three. Unlike the others, she grew up in a well-adjusted family and a very successful one. We can surmise that she had a strong bond with her mother before her passing, and we see how well she was cared for by the staff at her father's estate. Yes, being brushed off by her father must have been hard, and yes, leaving to become her own person was definitely the best thing for her development as an individual, but by and large, Lucy doesn't need Fairy Tail in the same way that Natsu or Urza do. She becomes a Fairy Tail wizard and is a part of the family, but her declaration of love for being a part of it.
Okay, what's this bald nigga standing right next to them supposed to like what's his reason for being here? You know what I'm saying? What are you talking about? It's a guild. It's a magic guild. If you're a wizard, you can join a guild. It's not a exclusive thing. You know what I'm saying? In Fairy Tales, they don't care who joins. As long as you want to be a part of something, come in. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't have to have a real reason for it. And if you want a reason for why she's in there to begin with, is like I just said earlier, she's the reason why and how we learn all almost all the lore of Fairy Tail. You know, if she wasn't in that one episode where Natsu got mad at her and was talking to Mary Jane and saw all the old photographs, we wouldn't get that backstory, and that was all because of Lucy. If Lucy, and like I said, y'all like to clown on Lucy. If Lucy didn't join Fairy Tail when she did, they would have died. They would have been dead. They'd be dead. They would be dead. Right? Okay, Lullaby probably would have stopped. Uh, Phantom Lord would not have attacked them. Reason why is because Lucy wasn't there, so we wouldn't get Gaju. We wouldn't get Juvia on the team. All right, we wouldn't get them on the team. Tower of Heaven. Let's just say they so happen to get by that. Look, realistically, by the time Atlas comes by, they're dead. Because Lucy was the only person who could use magic, and Gaju wasn't there. And Mexican didn't find Natsu and Wendy. So, like I said, they'd be dead if Lucy wasn't there, bro. I've seen videos on this shit, bro. Let's keep going.
And her despair at being faced with leaving it rings hollow, especially after we see where she came from. The more that we see of different characters' backstories except Kana, the more that we see that Lucy had it pretty damn good, all things considered. All in all, Lucy just doesn't work on any level for me. She has a super cute design, especially later on when she gets the pigtails and ponytail with the time skips, and honestly, I find most of the less over-the-top reactions she has to be pretty funny, such as the pillow fight scene in the Loki mini arc just after this. However, by and large, I just wish she wasn't a part of this show, because she takes time away from other characters that I'm much more invested in. At the end of the day, she's just taking up space and screen time, and like all of Machima's female characters, her knockers take up a lot of space and screen time, and we'll leave the discussion of her there. The final thing to talk about is the opening for this arc, and I think I speak for a lot of people in saying that it's bad.
Not that. It's not that bad. You know, so essentially, this guy didn't like this arc at all. Like I said. All right, we're not gonna get copyrighted, gang. You can do that.
Convey the right emotions for how seriously this arc takes itself. The framing is all wrong with the Natsu versus Gajeel fight, and the song is just trite J-pop nonsense, being Sense of Wonder by Idling. No, what I want to talk about is just how terrible the sync effort is with these openings, and this will be a problem, like, until the Arashi and Seis arc. This opening started playing in episode 12, which is 2 episodes into the Galuna Island arc out of an eventual 10 episodes. Conversely, the third opening, which is set to the backdrop of the Tower of Heaven arc,
you gotta complain about intros
throughout the Tower of Heaven arc that it precedes, ruining any tension if you watch the don't cleanly split like in some first intro to all include anime filler, and the Natsuverse turn messed up everything else. Out openings very sketchy, but I don't know.
I don't care to hear him cry about the openings. Who cries about the openings, bro?
Last a bit longer
and like openings are such a thing where like you can skip those and it's fine, bro. If you don't watch the openings, so what, bro? You know, filler. If you don't watch filler, so what? Bro? It's like that, bro. Like you could literally it's a minute 30 seconds every episode, bro. Stop it.
Maybe some last a bit.
Who cares when it started,
maybe
bro?
sync them up with the
Arashi
arc. They not only started adapting longer arcs without fearing spoilers and mental weight of a dud usually, but whatever, still preferable. Overall, the Phantom Lord arc sits comfortably below the Galuna Island arc for me in terms of preference. It features the first structured instance of an enemy team fighting one-on-one matches against our group of heroes. It introduced both Gajeel and Juvia, who I neglected to mention, who both become mainstays for the remainder of the series, and it gave Lucy a backstory, I guess. Kinda sucks that Lucy is a bad character, but anyway, up next, we're going to be skipping the Loki mini arc for now, so let's jump straight into a fan favorite arc, the...
Alright. Yeah, like I said when this video started, bro, I knew he was gonna fucking sit here and cry about the whole shit. Bro, the next video is 20 minutes, bro, and I made this a almost 40-minute episode. Oh my god. Alright. Yeah, I knew he was gonna cry about this fucking arc. That's I don't know what else I was gonna tell you about. But other way, anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. Yeah, have a nice day. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Other than that.